Can you ever confidently say that I walk perfectly? Maybe you can say, but there are some patients that cannot walk normally. Thus, the pathological gait happens. We know what gait is. It is the cyclic pattern of walking, but when some pathologies causes the gait deviation, then we can say it is the pathological gait. I am Mohammad Tosin Hossain from School of Prosthetics and Orthotics. And if you want to see some pathological gaits, let's go. So, lateral trunk bending. Here, the patient will move their trunk towards the supporting side. It mainly happens in the single limb support phase, that means mid stance phase. And the possible causes can be hip pain, hip abductor weakness, hip dislocation, wide walking base. In all these causes, if the hip abductor weakness is the single one, then it is going to be Trendelenburg gait. It looks like the same as the lateral trunk bending, but only for the causes the name comes as Trendelenburg gait. In circumduction and swing phase, our swing leg is laterally at curved path and it is swinging outwards. It can be happen because of the swing leg length is more than the other leg, or if we cannot flex our hip, then we can apply this method to clear the ground. The hemiplegic gait has some kind of spastic pattern, which are depression of the shoulder, flexion of the elbow, and flexion of the hand. And in the hip, we have extension, adduction, and medial rotation. In the knee, we have extension, and our ankle in the drop foot with ankle plantar flexion and inversion, which is present during both stance and swing phases. Because of the knee is on the extended position, that's why we have to do the circumduction for this gait to happen. Hence, the gait is known as circumductory gait. Now, excessive knee flexion. Here, the patient's knee is fixed at 20 degrees around the heel contact. It can be happen because of the hip flexor or the knee flexor muscle contracture. If our knee is always on the flex position, then we cannot make it extended on the heel contact. So this excessive knee flexion will happen. Another cause is the knee flexor spasticity or the quadriceps weakness. And the last cause is plantar flexion weakness. If the plantar flexor are weak, then our leg is in the dorsiflexion. And if we go to the loading response without dorsiflexion, surely there will be flexion in our knee. In the scissor gait, we can see the spasticity of bilateral adductor muscles is happening. That's why our adductor muscles are keeping our legs together. That's why our knees are attached. It looks like knock knee, but it is not, because our one leg crosses directly over the other leg like a blade of scissors, and this type of gait can be happen to the cerebral palsy patients. In excessive heel contact, our forefoot will be in dorsiflexion at all the time, so there will be no loading response. The possible causes are dorsiflexor spasticity or plantar flexor weakness. That means our foot is gonna be fixed at dorsiflexion position. And in excessive forefoot contact, it is totally opposite to the excessive heel contact. In here, our forefoot is going to be in plantar flexion, and thus the heel is not touching the ground during the initial contact. And the only cause of it is the plantar flexion contracture. Now, in inadequate dorsiflexion, in the swing phase, the foot fails to clear the ground. So, what happens? Our toe got dragged, and in the stance phase, because of that dragging, we cannot produce the push off with our toe. In other words, our foot is in excessive plantar flexion. That's why we couldn't clear the ground. And when we are at the end of the swing phase, our foot slaps on the ground, which is called the foot slap. If our dorsiflexors are weak, then the plantar flexors happening, and thus the inadequate dorsiflexion. And the other cause can be plantar flexor spasticity or contracture. Involving the patient will bob up and down while walking. If the swing phase limb length is relatively long, then our stance leg want to clear the ground. Our stance phase do an extra plantar flexion to clear the other foot. It is happening during the swing phase, but the leg which is doing it is the stance leg. As a rehabilitation worker, we try to minimize the complications after the surgery or some pathology. And there are many other kind of gaits that we can talk about. But for today, this is all. Thank you for watching. মুরগি খুঁজি টিটি 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 বাচ্চা তারা বলে সবজি ধরে রাখতে চাই মাগার কেমনে ধরুম ভাই কত টুকুর টাকুর সাদাই বেচা কয় টাকা কামাই কত টুকুর টাকুর সাদাই বেচা কয় টাকা কামাই